I finished the previous episode by making scratches on the sides of the vehicle, and today I will first do the masking. The whole thing is based on tarps spread over the entire vehicle. As you already noticed, I enriched the look of the tarps with thin strips of paper to make it look like they were made of smaller pieces. I glued them with CA glue. Many of you have asked me what I use as a base. It's an Octopus product, and the easiest way to find the producer is checking the links in the description. Okay, let's return to masking. Of course, I'm aware of the imperfections of this solution. In photos of the real vehicles you can see such an arrangement of the tarps and their attachment, but for technological reasons scoping the attachment is impossible on the model. That's why I decided to base myself here as much as possible on vehicle's elements that will make it easier for me to arrange them, but also on an elastic cord which is supposed to hold them in place. Very often old tarps, fragments of tents or even sacks are used for this purpose. Generally everything that can be used and at the same time is not a great value and is easily available. In my opinion, the easiest way to build such a mask is to use colored paper, which is easy to produce and even after drying is easy to shape because a few drops of water restore its elastic properties. This can be done repeatedly until a satisfactory effect is achieved. The elastic cord I used on the model is modeling treat, very stretchy. I would say it's some kind of rubber with a thickness of 0.15 mm. It can be easily tied, glued and painted. It's ideal for this model, especially since I have seen such a solution on vehicles in the Polish army more than once. The fact is that laying tarps as well as their proper attachment take a lot of time, and don't be influenced by the time of this film because I choose the best looking fragments so as not to bore you with a long process. Now it's a good time, the best time to mention my patrons who joined the coldemonspl team. Massive thanks guys for supporting creators like me, you are the best. The people who helped me the most are Bulldog09, Christopher Obarski, Dan Dibua, Dan Majchak, Hans Zap, Karsten Ikedi and Steve Ankin. But the people listed just now are also my great patrons. Please don't forget that you can be one of them. And I realize it's not easy these days, but if you have a few bucks you could drop in my cup, that would be great. Thanks! Oh, and one more thing. Remember that if you join for free you probably won't be able to view my work. Better try the 7 days free trial, which will give you many more possibilities. All the side tarps cut into strips will be arranged to simulate the movement of the vehicle. Most of the strips will be rolled back. I arranged them with water and diluted PVA glue. Apart from that, I tear them here and there to make them look even more natural. When all parts were ready, I emphasized all the tarps and their shapes with wash. I cleaned the excess with thinner. After drying with the accelerator I can do a little work with a dry brush, which will emphasize their shapes even more. Having already prepared the wash, I placed the towing cables on the model, painting them, and I did a delicate weathering. It's not without reason that they are so light in color here. Why? I will say only one word: contrast, and everything is clear. The arrangement was also important here, connecting the two ropes with a shackle. In my opinion it looks great. Another detail I added to this model are the markings of affiliation for the duration of the exercises. Red X marks on the hull. They are not difficult to make. I glued the paper strips to the model with PVA glue. A little is enough to stick to the surface. I started applying mud by dirtying the strips of cut tarps. Naturally, these elements are dirty just like the rest of the vehicle. I also didn't forget about splashes on the side surfaces and on the bottom, where I placed them in places that got dirty while driving. The accelerator is very useful because I shortened the waiting time for drying and I can make corrections or remove excess quite quickly. To a limited extent, of course. The same pigments I used on the chassis were applied to the surface under the turret. As you can see, I was very generous with them. Some dirts also appeared between the individual elements of the hull, which undoubtedly emphasized their shapes. I painted some dirty water stains by the driver's hatch. I made also some fuel spots using diluted oil paint next to the fuel fillers. I gently rubbed many edges with a pencil. The metallic rubbing is not strong and is visible depending on where the light falls on the model. I also did some metallic abrasions on the gun barrel, although it's worth considering adding some rusty coatings here. I'm sure it would look very good, I just forgot. It happens. The base for the scene is a photo frame. Unfortunately, I somehow damaged it a bit on one side. I figured out that I would stick plastic pieces here that would be like pieces of an armor. To finish them I needed a few rivets of the right size, which I quickly did using a tool from RP Tools. After gluing the floor, I started assembling the walls and filling the entire scene. I used balsa planks for this and I glued everything with CA glue, but also with PVA glue. In this way I obtained a strong structure that will easily withstand quite a lot of pressure. I glued a triangular path to the bottom to make it easier to move the whole thing around the table. My idea was based on using concrete slabs manufactured by Eureka XXL. Some of them required cutting and sanding, but it wasn't a difficult task if you have a good saw. I glued all the slabs on the plastic plate using CA glue. As a result, I have prepared a piece of terrain that looks quite interesting thanks to the non-standard arrangement of the individual slabs. I painted the side walls made of balsa planks black. I did the same with the surface of the diorama by applying a temporary primer to the concrete slabs. Immediately after finishing painting the balsa, I started covering the concrete slabs with grey paint. The first layer wasn't perfect, but the second and third did the job I expected. Of course, the paint was properly diluted, so 3 layers. I painted the small slabs with airbrush in a different shade. I put fine sand in all the cracks which filled the gaps. A bit of glue holds it in place. In some places it's worth adding more sand because the glue lowers its level. Easy work, but you need a few moments for it. Of course it's worth using an accelerator, but only when all the sand is soaked in glue. Otherwise there will be something to clean up. The same product that I used on the model is now applied to the base, and identically I applied pigment to the still wet surface and fixed it with the white spirit. Additionally, the pigment is also applied to the concrete slabs. I also do some damages to the concrete surfaces and of course unify them with pigment. Now I'm started preparing additional elements to enrich the diorama. The first thing I did was to prepare a set of wooden pallets from RB model. I did a weathering wash for wood, dried all the pallets with an accelerator and also painted traces of the round containers that stood on them. I used paint caps to trace the different diameters. It's worth remembering that pallets were used after World War II, so using them on the diorama from that period would be a mistake. All elements have a peg or pin mounted to set them on the surface and be sure that they won't fall in any situation. Of course I glued them into drilled holes. Now the element that in my opinion is treated as a modeling punishment in many works and doesn't resemble a proper telegraph pole at all. I don't claim that I do it according to art, but in my opinion it looks much better. To tell the truth, preparing such a pole takes quite a long time because the proper arrangement of wires is quite laborious and creating even lines is very time consuming. This doesn't change the fact that I always try to make it look really good, and believe me, it's better to spend some time making a good tie than to simply glue a piece of wire to the connector. And even if you plan to make broken wires, they must be properly tied. So watch and learn how to do it properly. I also added some grass so that it wasn't all concrete. Self-adhesive grass tufts from AK Interactive are great for this task. When I was weathering the wheels and the mud was still wet, I copied the tire tracks on a piece of masking tape. Now, after sticking it on a piece of glass, I correct the shape of each block and cut them out with a sharp knife. I don't worry about great accuracy. This way I have a template for preparing mud tracks on dry concrete slabs, and its execution is very simple. Just watch how I do it. As I mentioned in the previous episode, I added two figures to the model. I painted both with acrylic paints, but please don't ask me what colors I used for the Polish uniform. I will stick the inscription on the diorama base, which is a sticker. Application is very easy and hassle-free. Just measure the place where the inscription should be and stick the letters. After removing the transport foil, we have a ready title of the project. So right now you can see the final effect of my work. If you had a good time watching it, please click like, write a comment, even to say hello, and subscribe the channel for more videos with my projects. As I said before, you can also consider joining to my Patron group, because your support is highly appreciated and helps me do what I do here at coldemonspl. Thanks to this, I will try to give you some interesting content to keep you informed and entertained. In the next video I'm going to present building the Bradley base and the final touches on this model. So for now, please remember to order my book and let me know if you like it. That's all for today, see you next time, cheers!